110 days away from the November election. Who's counting, right? This is a year where anything can and has happened, and where the president is trailing in just about every poll. But as Democrats learned the hard way back in 2016, things change. Let's talk about the state of the race with Democratic strategist Kevin Walling backing up late with me on the Fox5. Hello, my friend.
Hey, Jim. Good to see you.
Good to have you here tonight. So let's talk about this. We are, I guess, the proverbial home stretch is coming up here. Give me a sense right now, what can Democrats do differently this time that doesn't result in what happened last time for them?
Yeah, it's a good question, Jim. You know,
I know, that's why I ask it.
We can't let our foot off the gas here in terms of running out the clock. We've got 3.5 months left until this election. No one should take anything for granted. You saw David Plouffe, President Obama's campaign manager, out there saying, don't take anything for granted. These polls are the only ones that matter, are the ones on election day. So we've got to run this out. We've got 3.5 months to maintain this lead. As you know, there's a brand new poll out this evening from the Wall Street Journal, NBC, that has the former vice president up by 11 points on the incumbent president. That's up from 7 points last month. So that trend is definitely something you want to be seeing with a winning campaign. But again, we can't take anything for granted. We've got to work our hearts out, especially during the time of COVID, where we're not running a normal campaign in terms of outreach, knocking on doors, turning folks out. It's anyone's guess how that's going to look come November. So we just have to keep our eyes focused on the ball.
So look, over the last month or so, we certainly have seen the former vice president emerging from outside. He was doing, we know, a lot of the interviews, a lot of the appearances from his home in Delaware. He has been making public appearances. He did a press conference yesterday in Delaware.
He's out of the basement.
He's indeed out of the basement. So clearly that signals a bit of a change there. And I know the Trump administration, the Trump campaign rather, really wanted to draw that contrast with these big rallies, which like we were supposed to see in Tulsa, like we were supposed to see in New Hampshire, compared to the events that the Biden campaign had been putting on. But we saw two different candidates for sure yesterday, underscored by President Trump saying there have never been two candidates more different than each other.
And that's what we want to run on. That's the point we're trying to make, is we want to return to some sense of normalcy in terms of our government. I think more than anything, Americans are seeing just how important government is during this COVID-19 crisis, and to have serious adults in the room managing this crisis. So when the president says he is the polar opposite of Joe Biden, we welcome that contrast clearly on the campaign stage and out making the case to the American people. And you're rightly, you point out the difference in terms of the Rose Garden address that the president made. It was more of a rally turned Rose Garden address. And the clear, concise plan that Vice President Biden laid out in Pennsylvania yesterday, talking about Build Back Better and his economic plan to reinvest in this economy, and to make the point that we can't go back to the way it was before COVID. We've got to advance on that and make changes to our economy and bring everyone forward in order for everyone to be successful. That's the plan that he laid out. It's in direct contrast to what you saw from President Trump yesterday.
So, Kevin, we know that we're looking at states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. Everybody's going to be paying attention to those states once again, because those are states that reliably were blue. They went for President Trump back in 2016. But what I thought was very fascinating was the fact that the Biden campaign is now running ads in Texas, which is really surprising to a lot of people. I mean, is that really, considering how red Texas has trended? I mean, Ted Cruz still won re-election a couple of years ago. I mean, why invest money in a state that has gone red for decades?
Yeah, they go red until they don't, Jim. And it's a good point with the Ted Cruz race against Beto O'Rourke. He only won that by, I think, 3 points, which I think took everyone by surprise with how deeply and considerably red Texas has been. But of course, it only changes with an election. And obviously, the Biden folks are doing their internal polling. They see some positive movement on the ground. Again, Texas is unfortunately leading the country in new COVID cases, along with Florida. And I think the vice president in that ad that you referenced is talking about wearing masks, talking about facing this COVID crisis united. And that's the case that he's trying to make to Texans and folks across this country. But clearly they see something in the numbers in Texas that gives them hope that this might be the year for Texas to turn blue.
We've seen over the last couple of weeks, I think we all know in the world of social media, things get very nasty, things get very dirty. There were some, I would say, uncalled for attacks from some folks involved with the GOP, involving the former vice president, and a photo of him and one of his sons at a Redskins game years ago. I think it underscores how dirty campaigns get, but I think people want to hear about the issues at hand, the issues they care about, which brings us to debates. Do you believe we're going to see debates, and do we believe the Vice President and President Trump will be there side by side on stage at some point over the next couple of months?
We absolutely will see those debates. Of course, there's only one candidate right now that has accepted the rules set forward by that independent bipartisan commission that's been in place since 1992. That's the Biden campaign. You see Trump out there saying he wants more debates. He wants to pick the moderators. It's all foolishness on the sides. And what we need to do is commit, as we've seen since the last 30 years of these debates. We need the president to come to the table. The vice president has already agreed to those debates, and those two should meet on the debate stage in front of the American people.
That is Kevin Walling. Kevin, good to see you tonight.
Good to see you, Jim.
Final